Hello and welcome to today's webinar. The topic is how log management helps with complying with NIS2 directive. My name is Arthur Kane and I'll host today's webinar. And today joining me is Lubos Lunter, our CPTO at Logmanager.
Hello, Arthur. Hello, everyone.
Let's jump straight into it. So what is NIS2? NIS2 is European-wide cybersecurity regulation that aims to protect critical assets. We are talking about power grids, hospitals, or other organizations that, in case of emergency, are super crucial for the continuation of services within the given country. And this directive looks at cybersecurity from the perspective of processes, but also mandates some detection, reporting capabilities, and that means including some tools and functionalities that these organizations need to have in their networks in order to be secure and compliant. It actually applies to thousands, loads of companies. It could be tens of thousands within a single country. So many of you watching will need to be compliant. Looking at the timeline, we know about NIS2 for quite a while, at least from 2021-22, when it was adopted by the European government. And last year was this protective sort of period where companies could, start to create new processes and adapt new tools in order to be compliant. And from this year, it actually applies and can be audited, and it is mandatory to have all those processes in place. Who must comply? There are actually two categories of organizations who have different levels of requirements. One are called essential and one are called important entities. But overall, if we look at verticals in which these two fall into, those are energy, utilities, healthcare, transport, public sector overall, but also managed service providers and even manufacturing organizations. And this also applies to those companies who are above 50 employees and a 10 million euro annual turnover. So let's have a look at how log management comes into NIS2 directive. There's quite a few technical requirements that NIS2 mandates from physical security, network communication security, and many others. The three that we'll be looking at today, because those apply to log management, are cybersecurity incident and detection, logging information about these detected events and other events, other relevant operational and security events on the network, and also incident analysis and evaluation. And last but not least, actually, there is a requirement to report on data leak to respective entities where such data that log management can store are necessary. And now over to you, Lubos.
Yeah, thank you. So I will continue with the trends in log data, as logs are very relevant for all those compliance requirements for NIS2. Just to have some image how it looks with logs which have been with us like for decades. We see that there is an annual growth 250%, which means that companies who are sizing their solutions to address all those requirements need to be aware that the recent status quo of logs and the size and number of logs in their infrastructure is probably going to grow very rapidly in the future. At the same time, also 22% of companies report that they have more than 1 terabyte per day of logs. So that means if you imagine the requirement for storing logs for 1 year or one and a half year, you can easily compute that you need to go somewhere between 400 and 500 terabytes storage of logs with these companies, which could be challenge, especially for those smaller ones. And also we see, which is quite interesting, I would say, that around 40% companies report that they do not have insights yet, or the good enough insights into what's going on in their infrastructure security, and this is something which is really required by NIS2. So I think that at least those 38% companies should focus on, getting the observability, getting the data and doing the analysis over the data, because if do not have the insights, they probably do not have the data for reporting, data for analysis, and specifically the data which are necessary. They necessarily need to have for complying the NIS2.
And we're actually expecting the first two numbers to increase, given that everything is getting digitalized. We're getting more sensors, more services that we use in IT. And the last one, hopefully, the number of companies without insight to decrease. What are some challenges in log management?
In log management, there has been, the challenges are with us like for years, and one would think that they will just be addressed in time, but they are not actually. Missing standardization. This is with us like decades, and it's not going to be standardized, right? The logs definitely are different from every vendor, and we cannot see any signals of some standardization. So we just need to adapt that. Each vendor goes for different standard, and we need to do the standardization in the central log management, not in the log sources. So that's the reality, and it's just getting complicated for the companies with no central storage which can do the standardization instead of the log source. Then inconsistent event collection, it's a little bit connected, right? That you have different log sources, you have cloud environments, you have on-prems, you have security devices, standing mostly with syslogs, but then you need to have APIs for getting logs, qualitatively good logs from VMware, Windows environment, and some cloud environments as well. So having centralized data storage is something which is still a challenge for a lot of organizations, right? They do have logs on firewalls, they do have logs in Windows, but getting the logs into one place where they do effectively correlations and detections of security incidents. This has been a challenge, and together with the sizes of the data, stream of the data you need to process is really still a challenge. And I would say, it's connected with the large data volumes, but at the end, is the high noise level. So this is very interesting that, most of our customers report that almost, 90% of logs is a kind of noise. But in the same time, they do not want to get rid of those logs, right? Because they realize that each security incident they have handled recently, they relied on logs which they would consider as a noise. So they realize they need to have those logs. It seems at the first sight that, hey, it's noise, but it's not. If you do the forensics of incident, then you rely on the details stored in that logs.
It may be noise for real-time analysis, but then it may be very valuable when you do like post-compromise deep dives or deep forensics. And I will also add, from my experience working with the essential type organizations that fall into NIS2, they often run legacy systems, which, back compatibility to those is also another challenge which falls into the standardization challenge. And I believe now you will show us some examples of how log looks like, how we see it, and then some examples from real environments, how incident investigation is done with and without log management, right?
Yes, I just want to illustrate that, what the log is, right? It's a quite long string of data where you can find kind of key value, key value, key value. And the challenge is that all those keys are not standardized, not unified across different log sources. So then, if you have such strings, you cannot just effectively do a search, visualizations, and analysis because of full text search you need to perform on such data. So this is very important, having solution for normalizing the data, creating some machine processable, machine readable data for doing analysis, which is called often parsing. And this is to get all those different strings to some order and to sort them, search in them, visualize them, and make it easy to use and easy to analyze in such data. Standard log search. This is people just know logs, for ages. It's in either a Linux world, Windows world. You can find, the places where to go for audit logs. And this might be also a challenge with NIS2 because, NIS2 directive doesn't say you that, hey, you need to have centralized log management. They just say that, hey, you need to store all the data. And this is an issue. How long do you store the data in Cisco, Windows, I don't know, all network infrastructure devices, security devices, cloud services, and everything. So if you create some policy to store logs, for example, for 1 year or 18 months, then you need to ensure that the logs are still there. They do not roll over. And also, if you just investigate an incident and having those logs distributed in tens of systems, it's very hard then to do the correlations to follow the vector attack and doing the forensics analysis. So that's the reason, even though it's not directly or explicitly written in the directive that you need to have centralized log management. You just need having it because of the rule that you have to report your details about the incident within 24 hours. And if you do not have such a centralized approach for normalizing logs, you just cannot do effectively analysis across distributed log sources and fulfill the requirement of providing all those details within the very thin time interval.
Like we saw at the beginning of this session, NIS2 doesn't tell you what tools to use. It talks about capabilities, right? Detecting, storing, etc. So how you will go about it is usually up to you, depending on what country you're from, because local legislation may mandate something more specific, right? But regardless of NIS2, when you're investigating something, swiveling between 5, 10, 20 different tools is not the way to go about it. So to summarize, challenges of NIS2 on log management specifically is how long can you store data for how many systems do you need to configure in order to store all your data? How do you go about detecting incidents within those like separated data sources? How do you analyze them? And how you comply, have everything documented, your risk management in place, etc. So now you have an example of some investigation of some sort of malware, I believe, in a university network, right? And you will, on a theoretical example, show us how normally this is done without log management.
Yeah. This is a real world example, and it's very good to compare just the scenario when organization has centralized log management and the organization before having that. So you can compare how you can effectively do the analysis. In this scenario, this is a large university network of thousands of devices, students spread across the big city.
Multiple campuses.
Exactly, yes. And what is specific, a little bit specific here, is that it's a publicly routable IP space. That means that everyone has the public IP, and then if the scenario is about that law enforcement just knocks at the door at the university and says that, hey, this is a time interval, this is an public IP address, and show us what activity did this IP address in the time. And this is where it starts to be hard for the investigation, especially if you do that manually across those systems. So let's take a look how the organization proceed with that.
So if I understand it, the university has access to the internet over some national sort of academic network. They give them some detections of anomalies from their network, and they need to figure out what users or IPs within their network did that or were involved in that detected alert that their service provider actually.
It could be service provider itself. It could be law enforcement, such as police or some cybersecurity authority, which just goes and says that, hey, we see some malicious activity from this IP address and we need to get some details. So just provide us the details.
Right.
And let's take a look how the original process looked like. So the university used a Linux-based firewall, DHCP, and Radius. So all those three places with isolated log storages, not normalized, just the raw logs stored somewhere in the database. So the process is much about manual grep, meaning going for first place, getting the information about the public IP address, converting the public IP address into the internal, then finding out who had which appliance and which user used that time this IP address, and putting and correlating this information together. So it's
just to find the username, it took about 45 minutes.
Exactly.
Going through multiple systems.
Who was there on the other side, of the internet?
And you haven't even started investigating the detection itself, right? You only pinpointed who will.
Yeah, this scenario is not about the proactive detection of Logmanager. This scenario is about providing the details of some incident reported by either authority. This specifically was about providing the details to police.
Right.
So let's take a look how it could work if the organization has the centralized log management. So what you typically have, the input data is the time frame, the IP address, port and protocol. So you can easily start then filtering the traffic, and then you can easily identify what is the internal IP address. Then you can say which appliances have used this IP address in the time frame. It could be one MAC address or more of them. And also you can get in Radius logs stored in central log management, you can instantly see which usernames have used this appliance, right? This MAC address.
Essentially automating the deep dive and manual correlation, seeing the IP, MAC, and user connected on a single dashboard.
And one aspect is obviously the time frame needed for doing this correlation. The second aspect is the quality, right? The possible failure or some missed lead in the logs, which is the second aspect. So let's take a look to the process in Logmanager. So we have the first step where you just filter out the time frame you are interested in. You filter out the IP address and port which was reported initially by the authority. You identify immediately the communication you were looking for. Then you can see easily the MAC address of which was involved in this communication, which in this filtered communication.
And this is actually done by clicking and navigating within the dashboard, clicking deep.
Exactly, yes. It's just a drill down, doing the click and click analysis, doing the drill down, through the dashboard. So, and then you can see just the username of the user involved within the communication with a specific MAC address. So basically, what you do is just enabling the filters just to or disabling the filters just to make sure that all the logs related with your search are involved. So now you in the top you can see the filters which are active and deactivated, just to make sure that in this time interval with the MAC address, all communications of this MAC address is involved in the search query, building this dashboard, and then you see the username from free radio system being used at the university.
Right, and those filters were not manually populated, they were automatically created by clicking on the dashboard diving.
Exactly, yes, yes. And here is just detail of the log. So if you go from the visualizations to the real evidence, you can browse, all logs involved in the filtered traffic. And here you can see even the like physical place, the either meeting room or the access point, and based of the syntax of names at the university, they can easily identify the physical place from which that student worked that time using the public IP address.
Yeah, world of difference of having everything within the same system, but also normalized and parsed so that you can see a structured data, essentially a table that you can click through instead of a raw, just a string of text that we saw earlier on.
But this is very important because if the law enforcement authority needs to do some further investigations, they can require, I don't know, camera records from the specific building, place, hall, whatever place they might use, so they can even confront the suspect with the video recordings, whatever is needed and important for that.
And the comfort for you is that you do 1 or 2 exports instead of 20. Right?
Exactly. Yes. And here we see the measurable benefits. Luckily, the university had this comparison before and after deploying Logmanager, so we can see that they have over 90% reduction of mean time to resolve such a requirement. They gained 4 times retention increase. This is obviously thanks to the sizing of centralized log management, because if in the separate systems they cannot get such a retention period.
Yeah, they are simply not designed for this, nor sometimes can you even choose your retention period, right? Some systems will just have 48 hours of data and roll it over, and that's it, right?
Yeah, and also just flashback to the NIS2, it's not the requirement of the retentions like 1 year or 18 months. This is not like a nonsense requirement, right? If you remember different security reports, which report the average time of revealing some data breach or some security breach, it was hundreds of days, right? So you really need to have such big retention, because organizations often, investigate incidents like hundreds days after they really they take place.
Right. And so overall, what we shown is how log management helps with three main requirements for capabilities given by the NIS2, which is detecting events, which we actively do not detect, but organizations that we work with usually have some detections in place either on endpoint level, network level, parameter level, but we collect these and correlate them.
But also doing the correlations, we do the detections, right? We use the partial detections of separate systems, and then we take advantage of having centralized data. So we do our own detections and correlating stuff which are from different sources. So
while those are like inputs that might not even show a full detection, but maybe just an indicator of compromise, by puzzling the pieces together, you can get to an actual detection, right?
yeah,
So that's the requirement number one. Requirement number two is analysis of security events, which we have demonstrated on the screenshots, but also retention and reporting on incidents to authorities for which you need the data stored in log management. So log management has been around for quite a while, and it has some history, right? In the past, it was more about passively archiving, storing the data for later investigations, just like you said, maybe 100 days in history for collaborating with, cooperating is a better word for, with police or other authorities, or even investigating an incident post-compromise. Today, it's becoming more and more about the real-time monitoring, right? So since you already have all that data, not only security related, but also operational related, having log management as the dashboard for day-to-day decision making on increasing capacity, making sure systems are up and running and on time, alive, and even looking at most recently detected events is how log management is being used today mostly. And in the future, we see more and more predictive analysis, more AI intertwined into those technologies, helping to supplement some of the time of the users of the system needed to detect, to analyze something and do it more automatically so that they only get like an insight that they can act upon. We don't really see a lot of active incident response automation. It's a big thing that we talk about, but not many of the organizations that we serve actually want some systems to actively disconnect something from the network, etc. We may see this improving with AI being more and more accurate, but we just don't see it as an immediate threat at the moment.
Talking about the future, this is a very important piece, the AI and the autonomous decision of, I don't know, configuring network devices, security devices, whatever action. This will again put some logging needs, but not only logging the action which has been performed by some either MCP server or AI agent, but you might want also to log the logic and the reasoning of why it has been performed, so you can tune up the systems effectively.
Another use case that I didn't realize. Thank you. So key drivers for a change for log management being a must-have technology rather than nice to have as it used to be before. More and more systems, more and more data, more and more sensors, IoT devices, cloud services, and applications. Regulation like NIS2, but also efficiency in people searching through all these new masses of data. And in Logmanager, we do log management. The way we go about it is creating simple tools that don't have thousands of features, but everything you need for compliance, security, and operational use cases. We've been on the market for over 10 years with over 350 active customers from all the vectors you can imagine, but obviously mostly those that are more, that have more budgets and need more security, which are incidentally also those that need to comply with NIS2. So again, healthcare, power grids, public sector, etc. We have a few quite unique features that are different to when you do homemade log management, some sort of open search log management tools, or even just relying on the inbuilt capabilities of your IT systems to store some data. And those are that logs cannot be modified or deleted, very important in security investigations, compliances. We have very simple search. You don't need to have, SQL or SQL knowledge. You don't have to code your searches. You simply can click around in the user interface. We have this visual editor for automating different things from alerts, creating your own parsers, essentially improving or customizing or extending the capabilities of log management where you don't need to code. You can use visual editor that's used actually by kids to teach them how to program. And this is consistent across the whole system. There is an easy management of the platform all through web user interface. It centralizes management of many components needed to collect data in distributed manner. So when you have thousands of Windows machines, instead of configuring each individual one to start logging data and deciding which data and where to, and making all the changes on the fly, we can distribute in distributed manner, actually control and manage all those stations to give us the data we need. And we have super simple licensing. There are no limits on users, on dashboards, technologies, or sources of data. You actually buy data retention capacity. And who is log management? Log Manager for? It's being used by security teams to detect, analyze, and store security incidents and security data. It's used by operational teams to store uptimes and limits and capacities and more of a how everything works type of data. And it's used by management to have sort of high-level overview of all the services running and everything being secured, and also using exported reports from log management for their compliance purposes and oversee. And I invite you all to request free version of Logmanager. You can download it from the URL stated on this slide. It's forever free with a limit on data retention. If you need more, you can purchase a bigger license. Go try it and give us a call. If you need any help, we have a link to schedule a call with our expert who is happy to jump on the call and help you deploy or use Logmanager. And this is all from today. Thank you all so much for spending the time with us, and leave us a comment.
Thank you very much.